Hiya, Russ Douglas 222 here with another unboxing video. Now this is kit exclusively for pest control. I've treated myself to a scope as an investment for, well, it's a day-night scope for investment and for more videos for YouTube for you guys to share the pest control exploits with you. Without further ado, I think that's a fair hint as to what I'm unboxing. Right, as you'll hopefully have seen from my other videos, my Wildcat is my first choice go-to rifle, sub 12 foot-pound, 177, flat shooting, great out to sorts of 35 plus meters. And I have more recently this year got in addition to my Scottish air weapon license, air gun license, I hate to call it air weapon license. Anyway, I've got myself a firearms certificate, and this is my Air Arms S510 XS. It's a carbine, and the giveaway that it's the FAC version is the power indicator here. If I roll it over, you have a knob there. No markings, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4 lower settings, so altogether 5 power settings. Otherwise, it's a standard Air Arms S510, but this one is XS, so it's regulated. I've got it in a GRS stock, which I've had lightened. You might be able to see some curvy cutout here, lightened by Steve Brown, Woodstocks in Glasgow. He's done a phenomenal job, and the stock now feels like silk. It did feel a bit dry when it arrived from GRS, but this stock feels fantastic now, and Steve lightened it by about ½ pound. So this rifle, as it is, although it's a carbine, it does weigh right now without a scope, with a slinger mounted, but without a moderator either, which you really need with the FAC version, trust me. But it weighs just over 3 kilos, just about 7¼ pounds, 7½ pounds. So I need a lightweight optic. Before the stock was lightened by Steve Brown, I had to use my Yukon Photon RT scope, and the whole lot with the batteries intact in the scope weighed 10¼ pounds. Just too heavy for me, with me being on crutches for life. So I'll just spin this round. Yeah, trust me, I would rather not be on crutches, but I can't help the broken neck. I just have to accommodate it as best I can. Some muscles don't work, some are still paralyzed 16, 17 years on from my accident, so I make do as best I can. That means I have to have a lighter rifle, or as light as possible. So for pest control, a day-night scope is perfect, or it's almost essential, it's ideal. A day-night scope with a recording facility, like the Yukon Photon RT I got from Optics Warehouse, is also perfect, but it's a little bit heavy, so if I can save weight, I will do. So I've bought myself a PARD, which I've just been reading the instructions, and it weighs 580 grams. Very compact as well. Here is the box, just arrived a day or two ago from customriflescopes.co.uk, and details here. Basically, before you buy anything, you join the MeWe group, and there's a discount code, and this £595 scope cost me 12% off, so it cost me about less than 530 quid. I simply can't afford the UK made versions, but I wish I could. But also I need to save weight, and this is the only way of saving the weight. There's we have a rather bling carry case. Let me just get this out. This is all off the cuff. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, that's nice. Let's put the box to one side. Where's the zip? We have a zip. This is as off the cuff as videos get. And we have the scope, the PARD. What's in here? Instructions. Oh, I can see a stamp. That stamp gives away it's Chinese made. As I say, I simply cannot afford the British made versions. I wish I could. But also, I've been told that this comes with a battery, and that with the battery is very handy, very light. This is the PARD008. It's takes a 18650 battery, but it's the flat top battery, and that's an indication of which way in it goes. The battery goes in, I've read here through this knurled knob. This is the IR illuminator, and I believe, let's just try this out. You pull, I hold this between my knees, a bit impromptu. Oh, that's right. You pull, you slide that lens back and forth to focus or make the beam wide angle. We've got a Picatinny rail for an add-on IR illuminator. There's a port here that, when opened in a minute, will reveal the slot for the micro SD card, and also for downloading or recharging. So this is very compact. The main on-off switch, another Picatinny rail. Oh, there's one on each side, that's fantastic. Oh, and there's a visible laser here. That's that little tiny grub screw there, and here. They are for the windage and elevation adjustment. It's a little, might be considered a little bit gimmicky, but if at night, if there's two of you out after vermin, and one of you spots something but you don't have a clean line of sight, you can call your mate or just flash the laser over to where the target is, and as long as you've pre-arranged this, then your mate will know you're identifying a target for him or her. So brilliant. So it's got the onboard IR illuminator, apparently a range of up to 200 meters, but YouTube forums are telling me it's more like 120 to 150, which is brilliant from a single little battery, rechargeable battery. Here, this knurled knob is to focus the screen, and this one at the front is the actual lens focus. And underneath, there is three screw holes for the bracket for the scope mount. But one boost of this fella is it's also usable as a handheld spotter. And I believe, having read a bit, the 4 controls, on-off switches here. That button, one press, magnifies it from 6 mag to either 10 or 12, can't remember which. There's the flag recording button. So this records in full HD, full color in daylight, and after dark, you press the button and press this IR button rather, and it becomes a black and white full HD nighttime recording scope. You've got the button to switch the laser on, or longer press activates the menu, because you've got to go into the menu to activate, do the plus and oh, there's a plus and a minus there. So the reticle adjustment is all electronically controlled. But this fella is going to go aboard here and hopefully be very compact and functional. So let's have a look. What else is in the box? Where are we going? Here. It would help if I got it in the box the right way. Right, there we go. Got it back in the box. Just that's it. And right, that is kind of a reach forward mount, but that is a mount that, brilliant. It's Picatinny. Right, so that's a Picatinny bracket that once screwed onto the Picatinny rail, thus in that position is a quick release for the actual scope itself. So I've got to dig out a Picatinny adapter first. I'll be back. So I have gently unscrewed this end cap. I have a 128 gig memory card, which I hastily purchased this morning from Asda. Pop that in. So I'll be able to download either via the cable, the download port, or by taking the memory card out and popping it straight in the PC. Be a lot quicker that way. Okay, so to mount the rather immaculate machined bracket, which is kind of a reach forward Picatinny bracket, to mount that on the S510, I need a Dovetail-Picatinny adapter because air arms don't do Picatinny rails. I have just such an adapter here. I have one or two of these. They're available from Amazon and from eBay and such like. This particular one came free with my recent Discovery Optics 34mm HD 3 to 18 by 50 scope, first focal plane scope, but I don't need it for that, so it's very handy that I just grab the bag and fit the PARDS mount with these brackets. Hopefully when the mount's about here, hopefully the eye relief will be acceptable here or further back with the GRS stock. I mean, the GRS stock, the butt pad can be extended to extend the length of pull, but due to the magazine position, I can't move this bracket any further forward. So we'll see how this goes. Just to explain, this tiny little fella is Picatinny in profile, and there's a tiny little locking grub screw on the side here. You can just see that there. The main grub screw is here, and basically it is sprung loaded. So this slides onto the UK standard dovetail rail, and then over the top of that, once it's locked in place, goes your Picatinny mount. So the instructions are in half the leaflet is Chinese and the second half is pretty clear English, though I've not read it word for word yet. The underside of the reach forward mount has the two Picatinny brackets, and what I've done, there's a tiny Phillips screw on each side of this for locking. Now, I know I've used these before, for example, for locking one of these onto the dovetail rail on the back of my Walther CP88 pistol. I've adjusted everything, held it down, and tightened these screws. To tighten these screws when this is in place, let's get it focused, on the rail itself is going to be nigh on impossible. So what I'm going to try is simply doing this. Oops. Right, one is snapped in already, and push that one into there, and oops. Right, simply push this fella in up against that stop. Interesting sort of shiny alloy stop. You can see that because of the spring that's not quite perfect, so maybe I might see if I can adjust or remove this stop. Could be that that's for using on firearms where you need a bit like a spring air rifle, where you have a screw to prevent the scope mounts from creeping. So I think I'm going to retract that. There's a screw hole here for it. I think I'm going to retract that and try and mount the dovetail adapter more centrally here in line with the Picatinny tightener. We shall see. Wish me luck. Perfect. Using my handy tiny little penknife screwdriver, undid this rather small Phillips screw, like almost a grub screw. Remove this little shiny plate, which sat just in there. And now I'll be able to slide the dovetail adapter so it's square here. So now tightening the Picatinny bolts should tighten the dovetail adapters squarely onto the air arms of S510's rail. Brilliant. Perfect. Removing that stop has allowed me to slide the mount as far forward as I can so it's flush with the edge of the magazine well. So that's as far forward as the scope can go. There is about 30mm at least of rearward movement, so hopefully I can get the eye relief right with that, and I can always extend the length of pull with the GRS stock if need be. Okay, now to take this back off and bolt it to the scope. My body strikes again. My back was getting sorer and sorer sitting on the laundry basket, so I've now wheeled my chair through from my computer desk next door. I'm now sitting on a normal chair, and hopefully my back will not go as it did a few weeks ago. I can't afford the pain, and I can't afford a few more weeks off work unpaid. I'm self-employed. So anyway, on with the video. Right, so there are 4 screw holes, bolt holes in the top of the rifle bracket, 3 in the bottom of the PARD008 mount body, and 2 bolts in the packet, these 2 round-headed bolts. So clearly there's a few options, and you'll need but 2 bolts to fasten the rail onto the underside of the PARD. But also I've just realized, having slid one of the dovetail adapters on, that now obscures one of the bolts. So there are different positions, but it's going to take some trial and error to get this right, and one of the screws might end up going through this end one here and then sliding the dovetail adapter on afterwards. We shall see. Right, so I've put the screws through the 2 forward and aft ends of the scope body. So I've left one bracket hole unused here and one unused here. Looks quite nice. It's definitely a reach back scope, but this is not a recoiling rifle, so I don't need to worry about recoil, and there's plenty of rubber eyepiece here to get me close, hopefully. We'll see how it looks on the rifle. One thing I do like straight away is the positivity of these capstan headed bolts. So if you see what I'm saying, there is a hole here, and I won't use that one because it's up against the scope body, but I can put the let's feel where the hole is. Oh right, this holes are at 120 degrees to each other, so I can put this in here and push and tighten this up using the Allen key came with the device, and that is in the at the same time that is tightening the bracket there, the dovetail adapter, you can see, and I could even perhaps with a long tipped screwdriver tighten that up, but I'm not so bothered about that, to lock it I mean. So let's see how it feels. But overall, adjustment-wise, or looks-wise, that looks very different. But then again, so does the MTC Viper X Connect 3-12x32 scope. That looks very different. The zero eye relief scope I've got, which I'm selling soon. Yeah, hey, but if it works, it's compact, it's light, it saves my back trying to carry this thing, then and it records in full HD in daylight and color and darkness in black and white, then it'll do it for me, hopefully. We shall see. Right, this is me editing and compiling the PARD008 video, first on the GRS stocked S510, and then on the Craftsman Fit bullpup stock S510. What I'm going to try and splice into this video is some footage recorded on the PARD in daylight, zeroing at GARC, Grampian Air Rifle Club, and in daylight out on one of my permissions in the paddocks, and then also on the farmer's garden, and a little bit of after dark footage. And you'll have to accept my apologies. I forgot to turn up the IR Illuminator strength for some of that footage. But you're going to see the PARD008 black and white footage in HD, recorded in total darkness. And I'll probably splice in some thermal footage from the Pulsar Quantum XQ30V spotter, because I've got that recording to the Yukon MPR recorder. So hopefully this will all make sense when we get it all compiled and watched. I love them. Yeah, my only slight quibbles so far with the PARD008 and the 007 actually for that matter is the screen ratios slightly stretched horizontally, ever so slightly. So a circular kill zone on a steel silhouette airgun target will look like ever so slightly egg-shaped, slightly oval. Also, because of the PARD008's excellent IPX waterproofing rating, it doesn't really record my on-the-spot commentary as I'm shooting. So I'm going to have to add that as a voiceover commentary during the edit. But it is very waterproof, very weatherproof. So that's a thumbs up for that. Okay, from the outdoor air rifle range footage you just saw, you'll see the slight horizontal stretch in the PARD image, and you'll also see that the zeroed reticle is slightly low in the viewfinder, slightly below the center. Me being a bit OCD, I wanted it higher, I wanted it centrally placed, and there's not currently a facility to do that. With the Wildcat, I did a little bit of coke can shim in between the rear of the PARD008 body, where it meets the Picatinny mounting adapter, and the adapter. So a little bit of coke can shim at the back, and that lifted the point of impact in the viewfinder roughly into the center. Another way of doing this is get an adjustable rail. Now, I've got here the 22, hold on, check the back of the hand. I've got the 22403 rail from Hawk. Now, this is pretty unique as far as I know. I'll show you more in this in a second. Okay, this adapter rail is the 22403 from Hawk Optics, and I'll include a link to this in below the video. Basically, this is standard Picatinny above, and it's 3/8 dovetail below. They don't do, I'm afraid, an 11mm dovetail of this design, but I'm told that this should fit the 10 to 11mm dovetails. You can see at this end that it's completely adjustable. So we have 2 Allen bolts on each side for gripping, but when you loosen those off, at the front end here is a pivot. So if you imagine this rail fitted, it can tilt to take out adjustable MOA, minutes of arc adjustment. Once you've got it set up, this grub screw here presses down on your dovetail rail to angle the rail, and it does include, there's a stop at the front end here, you can just see it from one side, and there's also a locking grub screw in the end to lock the adjustment. So with this rail, it adds a few millimeters, elevates your PARD008 by a few millimeters above your dovetail rail, but it acts as a dovetail to Picatinny adapter, and it's adjustable MOA angle, so it can center if you, once you've zeroed your PARD on your particular rifle, if you find your reticles too high or too low for your comfort, you can use one of these facing forward or aft and fine-tune your MOA angle of your Picatinny rail until your reticles smack bang in the middle. So this is the 22403 from Hawk Optics, and these are £23 each, and I'll include a link below. Right, as Robin Foxer says on his excellent YouTube channel, it's snowflake alert time, people. So there's a few short clips coming up of the PARD008 in action in a paddock, shooting some rabbits that have been digging up the paddock and making a hazard for the horses, and then I'll be back. There's a rabbit in the farmer's garden. Smallish one, well they all count. Oh, and there's a second one, closer. There's a dry stone wall behind them, and about 50 metres behind that is a public footpath, so I've got to shoot low and keep all the shots behind the dry stone wall. Quick squint around paddocks around the main farm before I leave. Horses everywhere. Birds. A fair few crows. And seagulls. It's a crow. A seagull. A seagull. 3, 4 crows. 4 more crows. Oh, sorry. The 2 nearest to those are pigeons. But no sign of any bunnies at the moment. I shall be back. After that semi-successful paddock shoot, you'll read more about that and why I did a 0 check in the middle at the start of the shoot, or near the start. You'll read about that in hopefully in next month's Airgun World magazine. But after that, I was still feeling that the GRS stocked S510 was a little bit cumbersome for me, and I then transferred PARD008 across to the Wildcat, a bit more portable, but non-FAC. So then I popped out to my local, close to home permission to see if the rats or feral pigeons were showing themselves. I wasn't expecting the rats to show because they don't tend to come indoors till winter when it gets cold outside and the food sources outside get scarce. But I think I suspected that there would be some feral pigeons around because there's been an awful lot of mess left just inside the doors of the sheds when I've checked recently. So that's what I went to do. First, there was a 0 check, and in one barn, which was empty, did a 0 check, and then went next door and was greeted by 6 pigeons. Right, having done my wee 0 session, next door in barn number 2, I pop here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pigeons upon that sloping roof. Normally the white heat of a vermin stands out a mile against the slate roof, but it's a really hot day today. There's a fair bit of solar heat coming through that roof. Also, I can see the farmers taking down the wall at the far end. So, that'll let more pigeons in, but also more out. So I'll see if I can get some of these recorded on the PARD with the Wildcat. Altogether, I got 5 out of those 6 ferals. 1 flew off, and couldn't recover 2 of them because they remained out of reach on beams, on roof timbers. Hi there. Okay, this is just a very quick little demo video to show you, to accompany an article I'm doing for Egg on World. I have my Air Arms S510 XS FAC power adjuster on the side, giveaway. I've taken the scope off for this demonstration. I'm about to change the stock. I'm going to try a different stock. This is my gorgeous GRS Woodland Camo stock, and I've had it lightened by Steve Brown in Glasgow, but it's not mega portable. With me being on crutches, you can imagine trigger sticks and crutches, even with it turned this way around, I end up with a bruise on my chest from it banging against me, and the end of the moderator comes down below my knees. So what I did on Saturday, I was in Blackpool and they fortunately had one in stock, so I bought myself a S510 stock by Craftsman Vit. So I'm going to fit that, hopefully get it zeroed tonight at GARC, Grampian Air Rifle Club, and with my PARD008, and see how that goes. I'll pop in on the way home from the range. I'll pop into the farm, one of my permissions, and see if there's any rabbits about, and wish me luck. Okay. Right. So having shown you my problem, my very personal problem with the cumbersome GRS stock with the Air Arms S510 carbine, having shown you that, I'm now going to show you how it looks with the S510 looks wearing the Craftsman Vit bullpup stock. Again, this will be all the details will be in an upcoming article of Egg on World magazine, and I'm just going to show you myself wearing the rifle, filmed earlier on today by my wife, and complete fluke that 2 weeks later I'm wearing the same shirt. It's a complete coincidence. So anyway, so this is demonstrating how much more portable my rifle is now in the bullpup stock. I'm about to put the GRS stock, very reluctantly. I'll put that up for sale because I have other shooting goodies I want to get by myself, so I can't have a stock I can't use. And then I'll finish this video off with some footage, some after dark footage of checking my local barns for pigeons, and there was only one, but I got it, and then popping to my main permission and getting some rabbits there. I think I got 6 altogether, but 3 I didn't manage to get 3 of them on video. And I also, my apologies, I also completely forgot to turn up the intensity of the PARD008's IR Illuminator. So I kind of missed the chance there. I could have floodlit these fields, but I'll improve on that on future videos, don't worry. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and there's a little bit more footage to come of some pest control, pigeons and bunnies with the FAC S510 in the Craftsman Vit bullpup stock. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. Hi there. Right, so this is just me demonstrating how much more portable my Air Arms S510 XS FAC carbine is. This is with the moderator, the lightweight PARD008 day and night scope, and the essential target healing claw. This is the temporary one. I'm just waiting to get the final version any second, any day. But this whole assembly weighs less than 8 pounds, about barely 3.5 kilos. So much more portable around my permissions. So if I'm walking around with my right crutch, my trigger sticks acting as a crutch, it's not banging on my knees, it's not banging against me. The custom riflescopes.com 008 intact, the PARD008 day and night scope, and with the rangefinder on, it's on the side here, with the Velcro attached here for the remote switch. So portable, so much handier, and this combination has already accounted for about a dozen rabbits in the last week. So big thumbs up for the Craftsman Vit bullpup stock, the custom riflescopes 008, and the target healing claw. Everything works.
It's 1 in the morning. Popped out to see if there's any pigeon activity. And straight away there's one nesting in barn 2. That heat source is very bright. That's that's a seagull on the roof of the barn. So they are that big. Let's check the range. Right, I'm going right to left. Those two rabbits there, about 83 and 86 metres. That rabbit to the right of the horse is 113 metres. And that rabbit in the distance, well, there's two more, and that rabbit in the distance is about 175 metres. 3, 4, 5, 6. Not allowed out tonight. It's 2:30 in the morning. It's 13 degrees and sunrise is 4 AM. So it'll start getting light again soon.